All right. Hey, everyone. Andy Hall. This is the After Party After Show. We are live. And there's no one right here with me in the backstage. So the policy is I speak for 10 minutes into the void. If people show up in that 10 minutes, that's fantastic. We go for the full hour. If no one shows up in these 10 minutes, then I close up shop. So I was just reading this article about an NPR article, actually. Just 12 people are behind most vaccine hoaxes on social media, research shows. The disinformation dozen produce. Hey, what's up, Lee? Yeah, it's just me right now, so I'm just hanging. Being my best self. Is that what I'm being? Am I being my best self right now? I don't know. But this is an article from NPR saying that only 12 people are responsible for a majority of vaccine, what's the name of the article? Vaccine hoaxes on social media. The disinformation dozen produce 65% of the shares of anti-vaccine misinformation on social media platforms. So the chief executive officer of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, which identified the accounts. It's pretty disturbing. Well, we know this too, right? We learned that on Twitter, Donald J. Trump was responsible for most of the hoaxes, for most of the misinformation about the election, right? And while I'm not for banning people for any small infraction, if you're producing a majority of the crap of misinformation, then yeah, you should be banned. That's all there is to it. So I thought that was interesting. I might talk about it more in depth on Monday, right? About these 12 people, the disinformation dozen. So I thought that was interesting. I have been in contact with with the people from my cat people from Adopt Don't Shop Massachusetts Cats. It's a Facebook group. And so they asked me, so there are cats available for this weekend. And they asked us if we have any other pets, which we do not, seeing that we just moved in like a year ago, a little bit over a year ago. But I did say that even though we don't have, so it doesn't say who the 12 are, blazing, which I found frustrating too. Well, I found frustrating. I want to know who these 12 douchebags are, to tell you the truth. These 12 people who are just responsible for a majority of the misinformation about vaccines. So what's up, Godless Gummer? So perhaps I'll be able to get deeper into the story over the weekend, and it'll be interesting to see who these the disinformation dozen, these 12 people who are responsible for 65% of the disinformation about vaccines and about COVID. It'd be fascinating to find out who they are. So maybe Cat over the weekend. I'm in active conversation with the Cats Ahoy, I think is the name of the group. Adopt Don't Shop, I'm sorry. But I think Cats Ahoy would be pretty cool. I'm looking at Godless Gummers. Ahoy, ahoy, hoy, right? There was an episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns answers the phone, ahoy, ahoy. And I think Alexander Graham Bell first thought that people would answer the phone, ahoy, ahoy. Hey, Simply Secular Dave. I'm not going to have to talk for all by myself. How are you doing?
I'm well. A little bit tired, but I'm well.
Oh, yeah? What did you have to work late?
I only worked till about 9, but then I went for a beer with 4 people after work, which was pretty cool.
Sweet, dude.
People are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I jumped on Neil's stream till after 11. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, dude. I don't think, what really limits me from being on other people's stream is just the amount of work I do and the fact that I need to get some sleep. What's up, Sammy? Yeah. Sammy's on the mute right now.
I'm muted. G'day, guys.
What's up?
Not much. Bit tired myself, actually.
Well, it's it's midnight there.
Yeah, it might have something to do with the time.
I don't, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's what, Dave, for you, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, right?
It is. Bright and early out here.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have any plans over the weekend? Do you have anything big going on?
Same old. Putting my house together, sorting things out. Hopefully get a couple of shifts at work, but yeah.
Sure. So it looks like from the angle here, you seem to have things together, right? I mean, from this small window, this frame, that room seems to be in order.
It's sort of getting there. I mean, my green screen is on a bar up here, and just the tail end of it is hanging. I want to get something to keep that up and out of the way, and the the computer section is coming together. The music section isn't quite assembled and plugged in yet, but yeah. But the rest of the house is getting there. I got quite a bit done yesterday. I have to drop some network cable through the house and stuff like that. But
yeah, exciting stuff.
There's always more to do.
There always is more to do. You're right about that. That's why I always tell people, it's like there's always something for me to do. There's always a laundry list for me to do. Do I get to all of it? Of course not. But there's always something for me to do.
That reminds me, I left my laundry in the dryer.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go.
I got called away to work on a car ship yesterday. Yesterday afternoon. So, like when cars arrive in North America from overseas, they come in on a boat and you drive them off the boat. So we had 1,500 cars to bring off the ship yesterday, which was great. We thought, yay, car ship. It's not a terribly taxing sort of work driving brand new cars covered in plastic off of a boat, except that we were on deck 9 and 10. So you have to climb up all the stairs inside the ship to get to 9 and 10. So I did 15,000 steps yesterday.
Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So tell me how you can drive a car wrapped in plastic.
Well, the windshield's open and the driver's door is open.
Okay.
Yeah, the mirrors are folded in, and the inside mirrors are usually pointing in the wrong direction. And the key fobs that come with the cars, the cars are actually, most of the computer cars, the electric cars, and the new hybrids and that, they all have what's called shipping mode. So the dealer has to turn that off. So when you used to buy a car, it used to have like 7 miles on it because they drove it to the ship, loaded it on the ship, drove it off the ship to the parking lot, drove it to the car carrier, drove it off the car carrier to the dealership. So you'd see cars with like 1.7 miles on them up to 10 miles or something like that. So what happens now is they put the car in shipping mode, and the car goes on the ship and collects 0 miles. So it doesn't count. When you buy your car, it says 0, all the way across it.
But that doesn't mean there's been 0 miles on it.
Obviously, it's been tested and shipped.
Right.
So at the point where they do the pre-delivery inspection, that's when they turn that on. If they don't turn it on, most car manufacturers have a default setting that once you hit 100 kilometers, it automatically says, okay, we've done 100 kilometers and clicks over. So automatically goes out of shipping mode. So when we get the cars, they have the fobs in them. They're all unlocked, and they don't lock in shipping mode. You can't lock a car. So the e-brake's on, the key's in it, you jump in it, you fire it up, you drive it very carefully off the ship to the parking lot and park them super close together because there's a lot of cars to move and you want to take up the least footprint as possible.
So what do you think of the chances of AI, and you know where this is going, right? Cars that can drive themselves at some point in the future, of them being able to drive themselves off?
I'm pretty sure that like when we go on the ships, we have crews that go in ahead of us and they set the ship up with the ramps in the places where we need to be driving off the ship, whether it's the front side ramp or the side opening ramp. They set up a place for us to walk back onto the ship, and they set up cones and tape everywhere. Because if you have to go down a bunch of flights of, like, inside those ships, they're like an underground parking lot. They spiral down. So you have to know, okay, I'm at the right level to drive off here. So they have crews go on ahead of time, and they lay out traffic cones and tape for us, and they tape off the cars that we are not supposed to take, because it's really easy to get into a groove and take a bunch of cars that we're supposed to go to LA or San Francisco or San Diego. Yeah. So when you get to that point, if they're putting up cones anyway, they could put up RFID cones. And if the cars can recognize those, you could just basically sit there with a laptop and say, you know, this car is registration number whatever, go. And you could assign it a place in the parking lot, and it would drive itself off the ship.
Interesting. What are you going to say, Sammy?
Yeah, I was just going to say they'd basically have to automate the ship a bit as well to put the ramps and things in place. But I can see that happening easily enough.
Well, the ships are super automated already. Like, I think I can screen share this without getting in trouble with anybody.
Yeah, Dave, we were talking on Twitter, and you were saying that there's only a few people on each one of those huge ships.
Oh, these car ships have even less.
No, really? Yeah.
Where the container ships don't have, like, they hardly have any people, but on these car ships, they have even less. Here we go. This is what it looks like inside. Did that share? Yeah. So
here we go.
That's the ship that we were on actually carries over 10,000 cars. So we were only taking 1,500 off, and then it goes to Seattle and, you know, all the way down the coast. The next picture is, this is how flexible the decks are. If you see that post in the middle of the screen there, there's some hydraulic cables on it. So that roof actually goes all the way down to where that checkered marker is. So you can make these decks. This deck happened to be 20 feet high. If you look just to the top left-hand corner of the screen, the deck above it is only 3 feet high, because they needed to stretch one deck into 2 decks high to put these 500 Caterpillar tractors on it.
Interesting.
So
that's fascinating.
The ships, I mean, they basically go in here and push a few buttons, and they have, one deck goes to 20 feet, one deck goes to 16 feet, one deck goes to 3 feet. Most of them go to 8 or 10.
James Bond death trap or something, right? The roof just gets lower and lower.
After you've been in here, like, if you can imagine these cars, last night we had 41 drivers and 4 buses to bring people back to the ship. We're on the 10th deck. You get up there, you're gasping for breath. All of these, I'm pretty sure all, if not most of these, were gasoline engine cars.
Yeah.
So you fire them up and they start puking exhaust out. They're brand new out of the factory. Their exhaust is full of oil, and the ship smells like diesel from end to end. So if you're not wearing your mask, you can get to the point where you're not enjoying breathing up there on the ship. It can be
I imagine.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
But they have fans blowing. This ship had great fans. It's a newer ship, and it had, you could feel the air, like being on the front of the BC ferries when you're walking through the gangway doors in there. You could just feel the air blasting through the ship, which helps a lot. Yeah.
So I wonder, and surely it's had to happen at least once, where someone's pressed the button and brought the roof down on a bunch of cars.
Usually only the ramp. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what they do, you can't see it here, obviously, but when they load cars on the decks above, they will actually drive them up to the point where they fill the ramp. The ramp will fit 6 or 8 cars on it, depending on what they are. And then they'll raise the ramp up so that it becomes part of the deck on the next level. And then they'll fill the entire area underneath it. So if like in our case, deck 9 and 10 were all for us. So we had to empty half of deck 9 before they could drop the ramps from deck 10, and we could get up there and start unloading deck 10. Yeah. It was a long hike.
So I imagine there must be safeguards to make sure that you don't crush anyone or anything, right?
There's hardly any people on this ship. if there was anyone working under that ramp, I don't know how you could possibly, like, they come down very slow.
Oh
and
yeah.
There's those signal lights that go
Yeah.
off, those like yellow warning signal lights, and a beeper, like, you know how cars have a backup beeper.
Oh, sure.
Everything that moves in this has like a bell or an alarm or something attached to it. But some people wear earplugs or ear protection, and it's not, I mean, everything we do is not like no risk. There's always some risk.
Sure.
You can get hit by a car really easy when you're walking up to cars and there's a foreman telling the driver to move, and you're trying to walk to the next car or the next row of cars. You have to have your wits about you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And do you secure the cars other than their brakes?
The cars are all lashed to the deck. If you've ever looked at the front of a car, there's a little square thing about yay big. Yeah. And it's a little plastic cover that pops open. If you open that on the front of your car, you'll see a little threaded thing that goes into the bumper. And what they do, they have screw eyes. So they're big metal pieces that are like a round thing with a threaded end. There's one on the front and the back. And on the front and back of each car, there's a ratchet strap that goes down in each direction. And the deck, you can't see it in these pictures, but the deck is full of holes. It looks like a giant cheese grater. And you can see down through the holes. They're about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. So it's a metal deck plate with holes all the way over it so that you can strap down any type of vehicle in any direction. And on some of the bigger cars that are next to the posts, they'll also put a submarine strap like right underneath the car to the frame to hold it in place. So the first hour of us getting to the ship, we had 41 people, and you can imagine with every single one of those cars having 4 or 5 straps on it, how long it takes and how sweaty you get unlashing all those cars.
Tobin actually asks a question about why is there civil unrest 2 years after a pandemic, and that's something that I touched on from Economist magazine. What happens is that people are frustrated from being in the pandemic, but also after a pandemic, people are energized too. People have typically they're spending money, spent up money, and also they have there are typically more jobs, so they are empowered and they're agitated at the same time. So why does this bubble up 2 years after a pandemic? I don't know. Maybe there's just an inertia, but it's happened a number of different times. This is about a 2-page article, but it's Ebola in 2013 to 2016 increased civil violence in West Africa by 40%. But according to one study, recent research from the IMF, International Money Fund, I believe, considers the effect of 5 pandemics, including Ebola, SARS, and Zika in 133 countries since 2001. It finds that they led to a significant increase in social unrest. It is reasonable to expect that as the pandemic fades, unrest may reemerge in locations where it previously existed. So, like I said, it's an extensive article, and people also tend to be more. They take more risks. It's also one of the things that happen after a pandemic. So, economically speaking, they go for new jobs, and they're also more willing to engage in risky behavior.
Which will be good for the pharmaceutical industry, for people to get back to risky behavior and buy some pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the psilocybin, the MDMA, new therapies that could be coming out soon for PTSD. Those are pretty groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah. Just to cap this off, if you look in this picture right here, you can see where this caterpillar is strapped down with 2 straps, just the boom arm. That's kind of what the cars look like when they come in with the strap on the back. So
right. Very cool, Dave. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, good stuff. It's been fun. Yeah. Okay, make me big again.
Okay. I think that's between you and your girlfriend, Dave, to tell you the truth.
Okay. She's a professional.
Once again, that's between you. Yeah. I mean, all the more power to you.
I meant talented individual.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that whole backlash of I think there's going to be a backlash of Trumpism that, just like it wasn't expected for him to do so well against
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. I think there's going to be that uprising again in the future that we got beaten. We're not going to let it happen again. And
Oh, yeah.
it's going to go, I mean, the only way they're going to win is to push the boundaries of what they did last time even further.
Yep.
And we all know that when they got really, really on the edge out there, their following dropped off. So if they can figure out a way to push the boundaries farther without losing that edge, like maybe they have, a soft line to their party and a hard line to their party.
Yeah.
Maybe, they've got to figure that out. But if they do, they are going to be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. The good thing is that the 2 years, if we consider something like 2 years from today, it'll be after the midterm elections. So we might see, that's only the peak.
That's
typically.
the peak, yeah.
so we could easily see things getting revved up, for the mid-year elections here. But at least by the presidential election, maybe things will be a bit calmer. Who knows?
Do you really think?
Well, only in comparison between the midterms and the presidential. If the all things being equal, right? Ceteris paribus, all things being equal, if we're just comparing this 2-year hypothetical increase of agitation due to the pandemic and people coming out of the pandemic, then the midterms might be more agitated or crazier in relationship to how they normally are in relation to the presidential election. So that makes sense. I'm sure there's a mathematical way to saying that makes more sense than what I'm saying. And people here smarter than I am might be able to do that. But yes, that's what I think.
So is it more is it more that you think it's going to be better, or is it more that you hope it's going to be better? Well,
that's the thing, isn't it? Huh? Yeah. Hope is a dangerous emotion, isn't it? Hope is a dangerous emotion. You only have to get kicked in the teeth a couple of times to realize that it's a dangerous emotion to have or to possess.
Like, I'm sure you think that there's a chance you can get a cat, but you hope that you can get a cat this weekend. They're kind of both overlapping in that case.
Well, yes. And I think this is why it's important to know what your track record is, right? And being able to say to yourself, well, what's my track record on guessing or predicting things in different ways too, and keeping myself out of trouble. Like I know that there are definitely some situations that I will just get my shit into trouble if I'm in certain circumstances, and I'm like, well, I just don't put myself into those kind of situations,
Yeah.
Well, we're almost dancing around faith here. We're skirting on faith.
Don't say the F word.
Well, now we can equivocate and use different meanings for the word faith. We could be like Christians, evangelicals.
Well, define your meaning of hope, Andy.
Oh, right. Okay. So, all right. So thank you. Defining of hope. It is an expectation that something positive will occur. I'd say that is one. And then maybe a side effect of hope is not thinking clearly.
But what's the basis? What's the foundation for the hope? But that's why I say we're skirting on faith.
Right. What is the found? Oh, so well, I think.
Is it a blind hope?
I think that's natural for our species, right? Just to have a blind hope. I think the myth of just having a positive future is actually one of the things that keeps us going as a species. Is that things, this concept, especially since the Enlightenment, that things will get better over time. I think that really undergirds a lot of our faith in the faith in progress. Yeah, I think that's something that's baked into the society in a lot of ways.
So time becomes a parameter then, doesn't it? Because long term, I'm positive.
Yeah.
Short term, not so.
Yeah. You know, yeah, and I would agree with you on that, though, with a caveat that we are in a race against extinction. So things can
Wait,
be
against extinction or to extinction?
well. It all depends on who you're asking. But if the rational parts of us, right, the rational community, the humanists would say that we are trying to avoid extinction. While those of us, and like I said, you know, up until recently, up until COVID, I always laughed at the Freudian concept of the death instinct. But you know, the last year and a half or so, man, I've been thinking maybe Freud was on point about people having this desire for death, this kind of death instinct. Yeah, and it's disturbing. It is disturbing.
Like lemmings, you mean?
Yeah. You know, it's something maybe that existence is so difficult for people that they, for a portion of society, that it just becomes unbearable, right? Consciousness may be unbearable for some people, and that's why they go into these flights of toxic fantasy with faith, with evangelical, with toxic faith, like jihadist versions of Islam or fundamentalist Christianity. Their consciousness just can't handle it.
Well, what does that say about us as a species when that's the majority of the species?
What it means is that,
sorry to go down such a dark path, but
well, like I said, it really is a race, I think, and to try to create as many structures that incentivize good behavior. You know, it's a constant drumbeat on this channel, you know, about good healthcare, good education, police reform. And if we don't achieve those things, I think that extinction will out over, you know, not probably within our lifetimes, but if we don't get a handle on our baser desires, on our baser instincts, then we are in deep trouble as a species. Cheery conversation. This is what happens when you talk to a comedian for more than 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were the funny guy. So hey, in your show, I made that comment about when Andy's show gets super popular and you have an opener. Who would be your 3-minute opener for your show? Who would, if you pick somebody out of the back of your head right now?
I would inevitably pick someone who I know. You always want to pick people that you want to. You always want to bring up people that you like and that you that have supported you in the past. So you know, Nathan Timmel, he's been on the channel a number of times. He just wrote a book, We Are 100. Incredibly intelligent guy, and so yeah, he would be great. You know, and Dead Air Dennis. He's a guy right down the street in Boston, and he's an incredibly funny guy too.
Well,
but,
they don't have to be in Boston, but I understand that's your circle,
people,
right?
Yeah, people within your clique you want to try to support, and which is what I do here on the channel. I mean, if I know someone, then I want to try to support their work. Only if it's good work, though. Only if it's good work. I have to read the book first before
When is the girlfriend? Or the girlfriend and the cat, perhaps, going to get at least a cameo or some sort of participation in the show? Is that in the works for the future, or is that sort of a division that you're keeping separate?
Well, you know, I have the girlfriend and I have had conversations about this, and she seems to be happy with engaging in the chat. You know, she has a real job, Dave, in chat, and everyone. You know, she has a real job, and you may not know this, but the internet can be merciless to women.
What?
Yes. Us being here, us just being able to show our faces is an exercise of privilege in a lot of ways, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's being able to say that I can put in my real name, I can show my real face, you know, not, you know, and I tell people where I live pretty much, except for the street, for Christ's sakes. This is an exercise of privilege, and I can understand why people may want to be anonymous and not show their face on social media. The cat, on the other hand, you will see so much of that cat on the cat. It will be, you want a cat meow.
Andy,
I see what you're doing.
I'm sick of the cat already.
Duly noted, sir. Duly noted.
No, I hear what you're saying. I've heard, I can't remember if it was Shannon Q or not, but there was somebody who has a relatively popular stream, and they were talking on another stream, might have been secular sexuality, and they said of all the negative comments they get on their stream, like a third of them are about what they're wearing or how their makeup's done or their hair. Like they're just completely physical appearance.
Yeah.
Like how many negative comments have said that, like, oh, I don't like your beard, I don't like your nose. Like nobody cares.
No one gives a shit about
a thing, right?
Yeah. People don't care about dudes, about how we look. But women, it's vicious.
Yeah,
it's so critical.
I'm sitting here trying to decide whether I want to say anything, but I'm gonna. So there's a popular atheist who we all know has an awesome stream where it talks about deconversions with people, and then has an awesome after party. Today's stream had somebody come on who was a beautiful looking lady, but as soon as she come on the stream, there was 2 or 3 people that the first words they said to her was a comment on her appearance.
Like what kind of comments were there?
Oh my God, she is gorgeous. So, which I know that's not offensive, and I know I'm probably being a snowflake, but the woman has a brain.
Yeah.
She has a personality. She, she's not just what she looks like. And for that just to be... males come on the stream and,
Yeah, my comment to that, my reaction, my gut reaction would have been settle down, Beavis. Having grown up with Beavis and Butthead, that is typically one of my go-to statements when someone's getting some nether feelings in their groin area. It's like, you got to just like calm down. It's like, we're not here to talk about her looks. We're here to talk about whatever issues that we're talking about. So yeah. Obviously we're talking about Neil. I'm just assuming Neil. I've only been on Neil's after party shows a couple of times, and I was impressed so much so that I shot him a message afterwards. This is a while back, about what a good job he did was being able to corral the person who was shooting his mouth off in the comment section.
This wasn't like in the end, the whole panel was sort of commenting and making jokes about it. So it's like nobody took offense, but the person it was directed to looked awfully uncomfortable through the whole ordeal. And me as a viewer was uncomfortable. So it was a funny one. I didn't know if I was being overly sensitive or
I would it's interesting is that if the person is feeling uncomfortable or visibly looking uncomfortable, then that's reason enough just to tone that, just to turn down the volume on that kind of conversation.
And in Neil's defense, I think he was even away from the keyboard at the time.
Oh, okay. See, now that's the thing.
He is. This is no reflection on Neil at all. He's quite staunch, actually, when it comes to moderating his chat. So.
Yep. There has been times I've had to go take a pee break.
Exactly.
That just happens, or you have to go out and do something. But simmer down, Beavis. That's what I would be saying.
But that whole idea of, it's different. Like, it's different for Andy and I are both, white guys of a certain age that, look similar. We try to take care of ourselves, but it's not a huge focus of getting in front of the camera every day. But the privilege, I mean, the idea that you and I don't need to think about that. And there are lots of people of different races, colors, and sexes that just toil over that.
Yep.
Like, it has to be on point before they click that camera on.
Yeah.
The privilege of, that's the whole white male privilege thing. I don't have to think about it. I just click the camera on and say, "Good morning, Andy."
Exactly, dude.
My partner told me her grandmother before she passed, actually her great-grandmother, sorry, to the day she died, was furious if anyone turned up unannounced and would make people wait outside while she put her face on.
Yeah.
And no one ever saw her without makeup. Nobody. Her entire life.
It's this just I was dating someone in between my divorce and my current girlfriend, and and I just happened to tell her, it's like, you are as smart as you are pretty, and she had never been told that before in her life, and it just shows you then, because she was attractive and exceptionally smart too, but the only thing she had heard in her life was that she was a majority of the time is that she was pretty, and that's criminal. I think that's it just got me agitated, and it still does. It still gets me agitated.
It's a horrible commentary on society.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And I think that's why I got upset today, was not particularly what anyone said, but this particular person was very intelligent, and married to someone in the chat, mind you.
Yeah.
Well, you see that all the time on the ACA shows, when someone attractive gets on there and somebody makes a comment about a person's physical appearance, and then there's like 18 people are like, that person's married, or she's living with her boyfriend, like, leave it alone, it's inappropriate. And on some of the shows they'll just time people out like that and talk to them on the side chat as the moderators, which is the right thing to do, because there are some young people. Remember, like, not everybody is 50 years old who's making these comments. Some of them are 14 and 15 years old.
Oh yeah, they're young people, and you're right. It's about creating a culture, right? I mean, on your stream or on your channel, about how you want that culture to be. So there's going to be new people, and as long as you let them know where the goalposts are or what the rules are, then most people will be especially skeptics, atheists, humanists. They'll be respectful of that.
Well, they try to be, for the most part.
And I think the reason that I get confused is I'm of an age where I'm in between. Like, my father was of an age where he wasn't afraid to say a woman was beautiful, but he didn't do it in a demeaning way.
Yeah.
Whereas now we live in a time where we acknowledge that shouldn't be at least the first thing that comes out of your mouth, and so, yeah, I'm sort of, I understand why the older people are saying what they're saying, but
I'm not afraid to give people compliments. When Michael Weissman, who does the podcast The Bible Says What, first came on the show, he had this fucking savage beard, like 1850, long, but not in a crazy Confederate way. But a long beard. I said, love the beard, savage beard. And if I was going to say that, or if I was going to say something to a woman, if I was going to compliment a woman, it would be something specific, like, I like your shoes, because being bisexual means that you can say that confidently, right, without being weird about it. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. I'm going to keep going on that. But yeah, I get specific. I just don't say, "Hey, you're pretty" or something like that. And especially not on social media. It's just, one of my goals, being a 50-something-year-old dude, is not to appear creepy, right? not to be creepy. That is something that is like one of my main goals, besides not hurting myself.
Mm.
and saving all that cancer money.
Yeah. Oh man, that cancer money. Gotta save it. My goal, of course, is to save as much cancer money as possible and then get the F out of town and go
get away from all the cancer causing stuff.
and take my cancer money with me.
Yeah. But see, something like commenting on shoes or, wow, that dress looks amazing. It simply says, I'm not looking at your boobs or thinking about, later on how I can get you in bed.
Right there. Right.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. We live in a world where there are such a thing as Instagram models, and there are people on YouTube who make more than we make a year.
Oh,
and
dude,
all they do is try on clothes and try on shoes and try on makeup. There are influencers out there who are working very hard to be the other side of that coin, right? This is of importance to society, and these people wouldn't have super popular channels and a certain amount of fame. They wouldn't have advertisers chasing them down for them to boost their product or their clothing. Or some of these people are getting like $10,000 in clothes free a week just to try them on the internet. So, I mean, it's not like as a society, we aren't viciously supporting that cycle.
Oh, absolutely.
And
especially our music industry. I know I sound really old saying that, but
you're old.
But I am old, so
I think you're younger than both of us.
You are.
I am. I'm 39. I mean, the number one song at the moment is it's got a fantastic film clip. I fucking love it. It's Little Nas, and he slides down a pole down into hell and kills Satan.
Sure.
After having sex with Satan.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But one of the first lines in it is, you're cute enough to fuck with me tonight. And then goes on to say, you can call me by your name. Like, call me by your own name. You don't even need to know what my name is.
Right.
And so it's like we're telling them to think like that on one hand, but on the other hand saying looks shouldn't matter. Yeah. So
the medium is the message in a lot of ways, right? The medium is the message. So I would say and do things on stage that I would not say and do things here. Still within, reason, I would say. Some people wouldn't.
This is Andy holding back.
Oh yeah, this is me completely holding back. And so, I mean, and once again, if you are making money off your looks, then I mean, all the more power to you. I'm not, that's not what I do. At least I don't think that's what I do. I'm pretty sure.
And I guess you're not targeting children either. That's the thing. The music targets children, and that's my issue, is that the 10 and 12-year-olds are running around, you're cute enough to fuck with me tonight, and not comprehending that it's just art. You know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. Parents need to, especially with kids who are 11 and 12 years old, or younger, need to be aware of what their kids are consuming.
Yeah.
And I think there's, we have trouble as a society with that whole differentiation of, I don't know if you're familiar with Erin Lewis, but she was a exotic dancer, and she wrote a couple of books about the industry and stuff like that. And she's very, very pro supporting sex trade workers. And, as am I. I've had incredible conversations with very intelligent people about the topic. And it's really difficult as a society that stigmatizes so many things like that through their religion and faith beliefs to say, like, we don't want you to recognize that this woman is pretty the first time you open your eyes and see her, but it's okay that she dressed up and wants to attract a male in a way that supports her business in a healthy, natural way. And there's a line that goes right down the middle of that, where you can still be respectful to every human being you meet, regardless if they're a doctor, a lawyer, a sex worker, a longshoreman, whatever, right? And we're not there yet. We're not even.
Yeah. I guess that's my point, is why is with a society that's so hell-bent on purity culture and so right-leaning and so obsessed with what people do in their bedrooms, why we aren't singing about putting a rubber on it instead of taking it off, or yeah.
Well, because we're hypocritical.
That's what I wanted you to say.
We are not good
Exactly.
people.
There was a drop down menu in my head about can't say that, won't say that. You can say that. That drop down menu happens a lot. That drop
like the Terminator with the multiple choice thing.
Just like that. No, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Oh shit.
So Sammy, do you work over the weekend? Are you on call over the weekends? Do you?
I don't really ever stop working, Andy.
Yeah. I get that impression. For doing what you do, you're always kind of grinding something out.
Something, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm always juggling like 15 things at once, poorly.
Well, it's like evolution, right? You just have to do good enough, right?
Exactly. I feel busy and I'm tired all the time, so I must be doing something right.
Must be doing something. You could be an American. I don't want to insult you, Sammy, by the sound like how busy you are. You could be an American with the amount of work that you do.
Yeah. Yep. Except I get paid.
You get paid, and you have health insurance.
Couldn't be an American.
And your retirement's going to be taken care of, and all that other stuff. Yeah. And apparently, your school systems don't make kids get up at the ass crack of dawn either. Or anything.
No. Which means the parents don't have to either.
Oh yeah, well that's beautiful, isn't it?
Well, sometimes parents have to get their kids to school or to I don't know if you guys call it like something else, but before school programs, right? Because they do conflict with the hours that they work, and if they have to drive their kids to school or make arrangements for that,
Yeah, we call that out of school hours care. USH.
USH?
Which is OOSH, out of school
USH.
hours. Yeah.
USH. That's funny. I like that. USH.
Which it's just babysitting. They have video games and art and craft and
sure. Just keeping them from hurting themselves, basically, until mom or dad or whoever shows up. Yeah,
exactly. But high school age, no, it's nothing like that. Just latchkey kids.
Right. Yeah, my kid's going away for the first time to summer camp for 3 weeks, like an geeky art camp, paid by her mother, of course, because she's the one with the money, right? But no, it's and it's a good art camp too. It's part of a college close by, but it's gotten me thinking.
Do you guys have summer camps in Canada, Dave?
Oh yeah,
because we don't do it in Australia.
Well, I actually used to help to organize some of the camps through the church organization that I was part of, and they did a fine arts festival weekend that was like the Friday morning to Sunday night thing, and it was one of the most popular camps. And some of the people that went there, they were painters, sculptors, musicians, and boy, I tell you, they'd put together these impromptu bands and jump up and play some music at night while we were like playing board games and messing around, and I'd do trivia, and then they'd take over the mic and do music afterwards. And I mean, you'd walk into a room and there'd be a string quartet playing. You'd be like, wow, this is great.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
it sounds suspiciously like a youth group camp.
Well, this was adults and youth, but we do the campground. They're actually on the weekend. There's a fundraiser for the camp to support them. But there was youth camps for boys and girls, I think right from the age of 12 up to 16 or 17. And then there's young adults. And then there's a week-long adult camp, like a family camp that I used to help to organize. And that's when I did like trivia nights and stuff like that, and afternoon events, trying to put together softball games and volleyball games and that on the backfield. And yeah. But
I understand that some people had happy childhoods. This is just
weird,
documentary evidence for me. You know, I'm just taking this in, Dave. That's what I'm doing.
I would love to have a camp like this and do something like this with a secular organization, but people come and go from them more quickly than those indoctrinated into churches. So we have a group here in Vancouver, in Metro Vancouver, called Events and Adventures. And they've been doing stuff for years, and they do it by age group, the 18 to 35, the 35 to 50, and the over 50. And they basically do the same thing, and they'll do like the whitewater rafting for the weekend or stuff like that, or camping trips, hiking trips into the hills. They do there's a sunrise hike that you start at 2 a.m. and you go up to the top of the mountain and watch the sun come up over the hills.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really cool stuff they do, but the turnover of people is ridiculous compared to what a church organization would have for, people coming in and staying. Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah,
finding good workers. It is difficult to keep good people.
Yeah, minimum wage, and the other thing is, if you run an organization like Events and Adventures, all of your employees are paid. If you run a church organization, most of your employees are volunteers.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit of true believers, right? It is a way to get people to do work for free.
Yeah, man. Free labor and fucking tax exemptions. If that's not double dipping, I don't know what is.
Well, I'm okay with churches, with religious organizations being tax exempt. But the idea that they should be tax exempt and not have to share their financial statements is toxic. That is not right.
You mentioned that before, Dave, and I think you mentioned that the fact that if you have transparency in terms of your tax records, if you're a church, and then you could be taxed on all the money that you get that you're not putting back into the community. I think that was you who said that.
Rating the tax system on what you're actually taking in versus what you're giving out, and then also how you're accumulating that wealth. So if you're selling books and Bibles, if you're charging people to go to events, if you're if you're operating as a for-profit business under a religious umbrella, there should be a different tax rate to essentially operating a church as a non-profit.
So what the JWs do is buy a piece of cheap land. They get all the volunteers to come in, and over a weekend they'll build this entire building. That recently, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, the governing body sent the entire world congregation a letter saying, we're wiping all mortgages on your buildings, but we own them now. Yous don't own them yourselves.
Yeah, our church did that
So
too.
we're doing you all a favor, but you still have to do all the maintenance and all the rest of it. So they get all these buildings built for free, and then they've shrunk the congregations down and put them all into half as many buildings and just, rotate them over different days, and then selling off these buildings because they build them. They're basically a big open hall,
Yeah.
so you can do whatever you like with them. And they make a fortune with real estate.
Yeah. That's not uncommon
and
in religious organizations. Our church did that too, where they paid off all, like when you see a church that's in debt, you pay off all of their all of what they owe. But the condition to paying it off is that we now have the right to sell the property. So you take 3 of those in the same area, you buy all 3, you take the biggest building and you tell all the people you're all going there now, you sell the other 2 properties and make a bunch of money. And it's very common for religious organizations.
It's like what Ray Kroc, I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie or know anything about Ray Kroc, the founder, well, not the founder, but that was the name of the movie, The Founder, I believe, with Michael Keaton in it, about the story of McDonald's. But there was a moment that he realized that he wasn't in the food business, but he was in the real estate business, and that's where the money came from, the big money.
Yeah, and that started about 10 years ago with Watchtower. They've always dabbled in real estate, but I think about 10 years ago they realized that that's where the money is, and they sold their original headquarters was in New York. And these buildings took up like multiple blocks. So when they sold up just a few years back, they got $1.2 billion and then moved down the hill to Warwick and built something that was, I think, cost 0.2 of $1 billion. So straight up $1 billion profit. But have told their rank and file that they're downsizing the congregations because they don't have enough money. There's more money going out than coming in. But they don't do any charity work.
Well, it depends
so
how much.
Where does the money go?
Where does it go? Into
the pastors don't get paid. Nobody gets paid. The governing body at the top do, and then maybe their helpers. But even like traveling overseers whose job it is, who don't have a home and literally have to go from congregation to congregation, will get given a second-hand car and then basically live off the congregation members' goodwill as they travel around.
Yeah.
So
one hell of a pyramid scheme. I like that.
It's just the money just goes in and that's it. It never comes back out.
It's a pyramid scheme, but it's more of a spire.
It's more, all right, I'm gonna have to start closing in shop, everyone. It's getting to be that time, and I gotta go to work later on today. So, any last thoughts, gentlemen?
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends what a wonderful broadcast Andy puts together every morning for us.
Oh, I thank you.
And I won't harass you with the Jordan Peterson quote tonight.
Oh, Jordan Peterson, just to close out the show, you can't do that.
No, I won't. I won't tonight.
Hey, he's Canadian. If anyone's going to quote Jordan Peterson, this guy.
Right. All right, everyone in the chat, thanks for showing up. For the viewers, listeners, lurkers, I hope you have a good weekend. If we don't see each other over the weekend, take care, everyone.
Hooroo.